What?
Oh, hello. Welcome to my home. Come freely and leave safely. And please, leave some of the happiness you bring. I am Trusty Justy, and I will be your host for the first and only episode of Guitar Collections of the Not Famous and Severely Not Talented. Now, before we begin, I suggest we get a little less formal and maybe start with a drink. What says you to that? Jim Beam Vintage 2019 for some mellow but excitable goodness, because I want you to calm down just a little bit, because you're about to see some amazing shit. Good. Now that we're comfortable and dressed down a little bit, we're ready to have some fun. Figure I should start out with a brief introduction of how we got to this point. It all started back in 1975. I was the product of a dirty hippie and a foreign chick. They had kids at a very tender age, and we grew up smacked in the face with the British invasion. Of course, we grew up on that, plus our grandfather's love for swing and big band jazz, and the evil Uncle Pete's Kiss collection, along with a smattering of Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and other sonic goodness. So, get comfortable, and I will explain this madness as we proceed through this evening. Cheers. Well, with a collection as vast as mine, it's kind of hard to pick out where to start. It's almost like the Buddhist question, how do you eat an elephant? Fuck if I know. Probably just one piece at a time. So I guess we'll just start with what's readily accessible in my fashionable shorts. Give me 1 second. Okay, good. Anyways, the latest addition to the JM Strickland home of Wayward guitars. This is a 2019 Players Edition Strat. They kind of did a revamp of the Made in Mexico line, and they really painted a nice shade of orange, kind of like a 50-ish creamsicle orange. So how can you say no? Not really a Strat guy, but it all has its place sonically in the musical world. If I had to describe a Strat in one sound, we'd say springy. We have another Fender that we'll get to later, and we have another word for that. But this one is special because the tone knob is wired to the bridge pickup. So you can turn down the treble. It will not shake the fillings out of your mouth and make your ears bleed. Winning. Moving onwards. Something near and dear to my heart. Back when I was a little bastard, growing up, trying to learn how to play guitar, all my guitar heroes had these super Strats. Eddie Van Halen made his own. That kind of led to Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. And I always try to figure out some crazy mix between Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, because I was never going to be Eddie Van Halen, and I'm really not that good anyways. But the thing that caught my eye was those made in Japan Ibanez RGs. And, well, I kind of went nuts. So, yes sir. Why have one when you can have three? Now, out of the three, we'll take Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is a 2003 made in Korea Ibanez RG. I know it's like a bastard because it's made in Korea and not a Japanese, but they're just as good. Beautiful white finish. No stupid monkey grip like Steve Vai, because again, I'm not Steve Vai. I'm like Steve the other guy, because I suck. and I'm okay with it. Now you can accessorize, like all good RG players, with a DiMarzio click lock strap that really pops the color. But when you want to do crazy ass stunts, no bridge is better than the Ibanez Edge. Again, this is not a Japanese guitar, so it doesn't have the original Edge on it. This is an Edge 2. Works just as good as long as you're not an idiot and know how to balance it. It's simple springs, man. I took geometry and algebra at least 3 times when I was in high school. I know how to balance a fucking tremolo. Awesome. Sauntering forward, like I just said, 1 is none, 2 is everything. This is an Ibanez RG370. Again, it's a Korean-made model from, I believe, 2010 or, I'm sorry, 2007. This had an upgraded Edge 3 tremolo, which again was panned all over the internet about being inferior, but I can make it squeal, I can make it growl. It's fun, it's a stunt guitar, and it's fucking digital camo. So, you know a Marine cannot have a guitar that isn't camouflage. Can't help it. This one I call Sergeant Nacho. Its Star Wars name is Commander Gree, but Nacho was a great friend of mine. He died in Iraq. We played soccer together, so this one's for you, Nacho. And of course, you can't have Star Wars guitars without Darth Vader, aka Anakin. Simple black, but maple makes everything better, especially with black shark fins. Can you fucking beat that? Yes, you can, because when I saw this guitar online in the unwanted pile, it's like something looks amiss. And you know what looked amiss? George Lynch Screamin' Demon, which is a fucking mighty fine pickup. Add to that goodness, the former owner had a pickup fucking splitter, so true single coil goodness if you want. Can't beat it. This is one of those, this is a 2007 as well. So, vintage, winning. Since we're here, probably should explain what goes into the amplification. Carvin VT50. I had it custom made in vinyl tweed to give it that vintage touch. When I first got it, I was like, wow, this is a really dark sounding amp. If you have humbuckers, it's gonna sound dark and muddy. So again, kind of justifies this purchase and having a Telecaster to boot. Single coils tend to work better in this amplification, and I'd like to say I've modified the Carvin to be the most enlightened amp in all the United States. Welcome back. Nothing in life is perfect. You just have to find the enlightenment for everything and find out why it's good. So when I open this door, I will first apologize that this used to be mine, but it's not anymore. I can't speak on the condition. But before I open this door, let me point out a very important thing. This painting was given to me by my mother-in-law, Mary. Now, it's just a nondescript oil painting of a Flying V guitar, but like I said, it'll come to light later. Come with me, and I'm glad you can't smell this. Behold, the former holy room of goodness. And again, more oil paintings of guitars. If you notice, all these guitars will come up later, just like the Flying V. You can't have a rad room without rad artwork. So, to begin, these are guitars that used to be mine that I gave away. I am embarrassed to show you this Squier Telecaster because my son has had it and has not taken care of it. So there it is, there it shall stay. The Jackson, we made a video of it the other day. Cheapo guitar that my brother didn't want, so we took it home. It does rock. Colin uses it. Not only do I play guitar, but I also play bass. In fact, that's how Colin met Bianca Jasmine, because they didn't have a bassist. So who better to make an ass out of himself on a stage in front of the city of Port St. Lucie but this guy. Thanks, Colin. So, like Bubba like shrimp, I like guitars. I spent a year of my life in Japan. So, no good collection would be without some good Oriental artwork. The guitar itself is a little cheap. It's Chinese made. It's supposed to be a Les Paul. It's kind of Les Paulish, but goddamn, look at that dragon. That is art, people. Now, being that I have a career that affords me all these wonderful instruments, certain milestones deserve certain presents, and in my world, they are guitars. So, Jesus Christ. When Florida gets destroyed by hurricanes, yours truly stays out in them, and that equals hurricane and hazard pay. So when one gets hurricane and hazard pay, well, you'd be stupid not to buy another guitar. Now, my kids grew up on Guitar Hero. I can't even fucking turn it on, but this is Guitar Hero's guitar. Marcus Henderson, the artist that did all the tracks for Guitar Hero, he got the good people of Epiphone to remake a Futura. Futura is the original Explorer that came out in, 1958? This was the original body shape. It was a little too futuristic, so they made it a little less cutting edge, hence the Gibson Explorer. But this one is rad. It has an ebony fingerboard, the sickle inlay, EMG 8183s, I believe. So, James Hetfield, eat your heart out. I'm remiss without speaking about this Ibanez acoustic. Not too unlike every other acoustic that's made on the planet, but backstory on this one is I lived behind a Finnish nursing home in which my mom worked at. One of the patients was the Polka King of Finland, who had a rad Epiphone FT550, which was one of the first Japanese-built Epiphone guitars when they got tossed out of Kalamazoo. So she bought it off of him for $100 and said, "Would you be interested?" So yeah, I was interested because, like Bubba like shrimp, I like guitars, and it was one of the best sounding acoustic guitars I ever had. Unfortunately, due to its age and the way it was taken care of, it had truss rod issues that could not be fixed, and also bracing issues. So as good as it sounded, there was some rattle and some hum, and probably $1,000 to fix, which the guitar was like $100, so that wasn't going to happen. So traded it in for this wonderful Chinese made Ibanez, nondescript, but damn, look at that Tree of Life in blank. Rad. This, my friends, is where the magic happens. Put on your seatbelts because you're about to see the inner sanctum. I did change the sheets, so you're lucky. All right, where to begin? The one that started it all. Now, I got this for my 40th birthday back in 2015. Not good at math. 2015. Gift from my wife. And I used to not like Telecasters because they're just big planks of wood. not too pretty to look at, but goddamn, if you play one, it speaks for itself. Now, we said that the Stratocaster was springy. This is spanky. This will spank your ass with some serious country licks. This is a US made Fender. It's got the Texas Specials, which are Stevie Ray Vaughan's pickups. It sounds quite rad. Again, you probably can sound good on this using any amplifier, but the Carbon VT50 is primo. Back when I was a kid, and I'd sit down with my grandfather, aka Grampy, David Strickland II. He was a 180 opposite of my father, the British invasion freak. He was big band and swing. So growing up, I put those two things together, and that would be rockabilly. So I have this unnatural pull to all things Brian Setzer, the Stray Cats, Sheen Vincent, Eddie Cochran, Bill Haley, Elvis Presley. So one of the other last purchases I made, amongst many, is this beautiful Gretsch, because you can't have a guitar collection without that great Gretsch sound. This one is a Korean made, based on the 6120. Usually comes in orange, silver, and then they slap black paint on it with gold hardware, and holy shit, if you don't get a moto boner just by looking at this, check yourself, something's wrong. Pros. Filtertrons speak for themselves. There's nothing else that sounds like a Filtertron. Sounds kind of like a piano, somewhere between a Fender Strat and Tele and a Gibson Les Paul. Sound all unto itself, it's goodness. Now, the first hollow body that I ever got, I sold like an idiot, and I regretted it. So, a couple years later, Ibanez, the brand that shreds, painted my red guitar orange and put racing stripes on it. So, hollow body goodness, humbucker pickups, Bigsby, kind of a knockoff Bigsby, but goddamn, it's orange. You can't beat it. Before we get to the other monstrosities, let me show you this Frankenstein piece that came from San Jose, California, in somebody's junk pile. It's a Squier Stagemaster. I know, Squier, you automatically cringe, but it's a 7-string. It was painted by whoever owned it, this beautiful, disgusting green. I'm thinking that they're probably Korn fans, but the paint job is rad, and the plus that it came with was the DiMarzio PAF 7, the PAF 7, that somebody snuck in here. Obviously, they like whatever the guy's name is from Korn. I don't. I have no idea about their music, but a little research, and that's what I came up with. This is for all things typo negative, which if you don't like typo negative, turn this video off now and just befriend me or defriend me, whatever it is on Facebook. Just, we're done, because we can't be friends. Alright, so having a Telecaster is mainly because of Marty Stewart. You can't play guitar without playing or trying other stringed instruments, so Ibanez, the brand that shreds, makes mandolins. So if you see Marty Stewart playing the mandolin, you're probably going to say, I want to try that. What better way to try than to get yourself an Ibanez mandolin? And of course, a custom hand-tooled strap from good old Kentucky. My last birthday present that was gotten to me by my wife. It's a Taylor. This is the best sounding acoustic guitar on the planet right now. It's Koa back and sides, spruce spruce top. I upgraded it with a Thalia Capo's homemade truss rod cover, snowflake inlays. My daughter's name is Taylor. She was born in Hawaii. Koa is Hawaiian wood. You just can't go wrong. Thank you, Jenny, for this wonderful gift. Thanks, Colin, for picking it out. Another junk pile find. Jedward Van Halen. This mongrel, which I wanted since Eddie Van Halen came out with his long overdue line in 2005, 2007, whatever the hell it is, the Stripe series. This particular guitar was used as collateral on a car up in Fort Pierce, Florida. Now the guy that pawned it defaulted on his loan, and the rest is history. Like an idiot, I walked off without the whammy bar, but I found that All Parts makes this wonderful Floyd Rose bar copy, and it looked even radder by matching, or not matching it, chrome, but in black. So, Frankenstrat. Now, good strats usually cost you an arm and a leg. The last one I bought was almost $700, and that was made in Mexico. Who knew that Peavey made strats in good old Mississippi back in the late 90s? It's black, it's white. You can call it Eric Clapton's Blackie. It's really noisy, but it fucking rocks. So, if you can find one in the junk pile for $99, scoop it up because it's an American-made Strat. Can't go wrong. And of course, saving the best for last, I am a Les Paul man. All good things come from this ungodly hunk of mahogany and maple. Jimmy Page, Billy Gibbons, Ace Frehley, Slash, Peter Frampton, Pete Townsend. Eric Clapton played a fucking Les Paul. Everybody that sounds good played a Les Paul. And there's a reason for it, because they just sound great. Now this one was had by my shoulder surgery. That's right. I got severance pay when I got out of the military on my medical discharge. And I kept $2,000 of my severance pay because this was going to take the place of my fucked up shoulder. And goddamn, it did a great job. Burstbucker pickups are Alnico 5 magnets, and they sound amazing. So, the sound of heaven, Les Paul standard, and if you want, go with a Les Paul custom. I'm not picky. But plug this into a high gain amplifier, something 100 watts or more. It's a winning combination. I can't play for shit, but if I play something on this, people think that I can play, and that's important. I'd be remiss without talking about the other amplifications that I use. This is like a 200 watt computer that can pretty much sound like any damn amp you can name. It's extremely difficult to work with because of all the options, but if you got the time, that has got your dime. Plus no one wanted this, and I got it for dirt cheap. Sounds good. Everyone bags on crate. I do too. But my good friend Tim Callahan once had a crate amp in the early 90s, and it sounded fantastic. Nothing sounded like that amp. Like I said before, they do make some garbage pieces, and even the regular Blue Voodoos sound like poop. But the BV150 and its sister, the BV300, were the most expensive, well-made amps that they ever made towards the end of their tenure in the music business. This one is 150 watts, the 300 is 300 watts, which is fucking insane. Get yourself a decent cabinet and you'll be able to cut through the mix like no one's business. a Marshall, they do sound good, but there's a certain amount of mud that comes with them. It's very bass heavy, very muddled sound. I don't know why that is, it just is. These, it looks like James Hetfield wrote your control panel, which is rad. And these, you can control the treble and the bass. So you can cut through that Marshall mud. If you can find one in the junk pile, scoop it up, because that's what I did with this. Got it for less than 250 bucks. And that, my friends, is a fucking bargain, the best you'll ever have. Remember that painting I was talking about? I told you to remember? This is why. You can't own a painting of a guitar and not actually own the guitar, because it's a special edition. It's probably the only good thing that came out of 2002, and that is the Gibson Faded series, which is a normal series for Gibson, but this one, they had leftover ebony necks with crescent moon inlays. So instead of getting a boring ass rosewood fingerboard with pearl dot inlays, ebony, crescent moons, Alnico 5 pickups, and these 490R, 490Ts. Rock and roll, my friends. Well, there you have it, my friends. The J.M. Strickland Home for Wayward Guitars. Hope you enjoyed the collection. Before I go, I want to thank my sponsors. Jim Beam makes a fine bourbon. Ibanez, Fender, Gibson, Squire, Taylor, Jennifer, you're giving me some rad guitars. Carvin, Crate, Marshall. Thanks, Colin, for shooting this with me and looking at my ball sack in these silkies. So, good night and God bless.